Welcome to Wisdom Within with Tina and Tonya. Have you ever felt like the life that you have built just doesn't fit anymore, like you've outgrown it? Well, you are not alone, and it's not a bad thing. So, Tina and I are here today to share with you our experiences in that and all the good things about it, as well as kind of how to work through it, how to bring others that you love around it. So let's dive into this topic. Tina, what are your thoughts well, first of all, have you had that experience?
I have. I've done a lot of personal growth in the past, in the past 60 years. And I've been one of those people who has um, jumped into the self-help stuff. And in the in my 30s, I was really into, well, actually in my late 20s and early 30s, I was really into all the self-help stuff. And so looking at trying to change my mindset and trying to figure out ways to make my life better. And yeah, it was there. There's been, especially there have been a few instances in the past that really stick out for me, that I can remember when I've outgrown situations, or when I've moved through and become a different person. Basically, it's like my first one would be with my ex-husband. It was like, um, yeah, he was definitely not somebody who was a good person. And it's like, I, I had to be like, and I'm done, and just kind of move on. And in that moving on, it was hard because he was, kind of hanging on or whatever. And yeah, so there's been a lot of different times when I've seen those things in my life.
So I want to dive into those in a minute, but first, I'm curious about, did you have little signals or signs or things that were coming up within you that were kind of sending you little, I would call them signals, little intuitive nudges, whatever you want to call it, that was kind of letting you know that there was a shift coming or that you were shifting, something needed to change, big, small, anything like that that you recognized?
Um, yeah, I mean, like I said, all my life I've been one of those people that has or I should say my adult life, been one of those people that have been with the self-help, trying to shift into being more positive, because I grew up in a not so positive family.
In my mind, I'm thinking it's okay. You can say it. What is it?
And so yeah, I'm trying to think of specific instances when I was in my 30s and in my 40s, when I knew that there needed to be a shift. And it was always this, for me, it's frustration. When I'm frustrated with my life, and it's not going well. I deal with depression. And so I would be in these depressive states, and I would be frustrated, and I would be anxious. And I knew that, and I don't know why, but I was always drawn to that changing the mindset thing. And so I would go into finding all these different kinds of ways to help. And it kind of, I think the shift just happens inside you. And it's like, it's not like, for me, it's not anything that's like a boom. It's like all of a sudden I just feel this movement. It's like, and just like recently I'm working on my mindset, but all of a sudden it's like there's been this shift that I didn't know happened. You know what I mean? It's like it was there. I knew I needed to make the changes. I knew I needed to make the things happen. But all of a sudden there was just this like, whoop, and it's like, oh, it's there. And I don't know if it's all of a sudden because I've been working on all the things, but it was there. So
That's interesting to hear you say that. And it makes me happy when I hear you say frustrated because I'm like, yeah, that's the generator theme,
generator.
right? I'm like, oh, there we go. There's the human design spark. But it's funny because even listening, I feel like, okay, I'm gonna go there for a minute with human design, but I feel like as we learn our design, especially as we start reflecting on it, we can see how much it lines up with what we've always been doing or kind of always known. And one thing that it's so along this topic, it's so fun to really start examining. And I think that that can be really helpful for those who are listening because there is that piece of, well, how do you know if you've outgrown your life? Well, look at things you've outgrown in the past and start looking for those little triggers or little patterns that you start to notice. Um, I was at an event last week with a group of ladies, and the amazing human who cuts my hair was there, and she made a comment to someone else about how my hair's fine one day, and then the next day it's like it's got to be cut. And I was kind of chuckling because I thought, oh my gosh, that is how my whole life is, right? Everything is fine until it's not, and then it's got to
Mhm.
go, and I have to do
Mhm.
something immediately. And I'm like, well, sounds very splenic. I have a splenic authority in human design, and so much of what I do is that way. So it's really kind of fun to put those little things together. Um, but that was very much me, especially with big things. So little things like I can think of a little shift that I had years ago where the majority of the books that I read were fantasy fiction. And I just got to a spot where I just couldn't read it anymore. I was just done with that. And that was a shift in my life and it led me in a direction. Now I'm back to reading that again and I'm having so much fun with it, but I had to take a break for it for a while and so I opened that door for new things to come in. Self-help books came in specifically on mindset shift and all of those things were really big for me too. And it was almost like my soul was craving that. I was binge reading everything I could get my hands on that was self-help mindset shift. Um, but then for bigger things, specifically, like I remember the moment that I left my religion and it wasn't like I walked away from the religion. It was all internal for me. And I was sitting on my floor and I'm folding clothes and I'm watching this thing on program on the this TV program about it and I have this instant and I'm done. And it was very strong and I knew it, but then of course I didn't second guess myself, but I was like, "Okay, no knee jerk reactions. Give it just a minute." But I was done and it never changed and even though I didn't announce it to the world, that was very solid within me was and I'm done.
Mhm.
And that is my exit point in my
Yep.
soul. Even though it was a little while later that I actually stopped all the things. Um so those are some signals for me and sounds like, we each have our different process, but they're
Pretty
signals to
similar.
let us
Yeah.
know this is no longer serving you or it's time to make a shift or this doesn't fit anymore, right? It's like those jeans button up until one day they don't anymore. And then
Yep.
it's like, and now is the time. And so I think it's really important to pick up on those signals that are coming at us because they're there to guide us and help us,
Mhm.
not always
Yeah.
comfortably.
Right. Exactly. And it's like what you're talking about there. I will go. I It's not as bad as it used to be, but I used to go for I would be doing the thing and I knew that it wasn't in alignment. I knew it didn't feel right. I knew it didn't feel good. And I do it and I do it and I do it and I do it until finally there was I'm fucking pissed off and I'm done.
Yeah,
And and now it's a gentler shift. It's not the boom, because I don't allow myself to I I have more self-awareness now to where I know what my triggers are or what how it feels, I guess, in my body when I know there needs to be things to change. And so it's not as dramatic as it used to be.
me too. Me
I
too.
remember the time when I when I quit talking to my mom. It was like, um, it was the weird, I shouldn't say weird, but it was a conversation between my sister and I. She told me some things that my mom had said to her. And right then I was like, I'm done. And I didn't talk to my mom again for the rest of her life. And, um, those, yeah, those little, and I don't, not everything's that dramatic, but that is exactly kind of, how I work, I guess.
Mhm.
And so, but it's like when you're in your life and these things aren't working, but you continue to do those things and your life just feels like it's, it's heavy and it's hard, and you're continuing and you're staying in it because this is what you should do. And then when you finally realize that you've outgrown that life and trying to make those changes, there's a whole other dynamic that comes in with that.
Mhm. And I think it's, we talked about this a little bit on the previous episode about really allowing that last version of yourself to be complete. But I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes what we fall into, especially in this, is we've worked so hard to build this life that we have. It's our identity, it's maybe our career, it's our hobbies, it's what people know us for. And so if we have this shift, there is very much a real sense of loss and fear and what's going to happen and all those things that can come up as well. But I think one thing that's really important is that we do give ourselves the permission to let that side of us really go and allow ourselves to really just be like, it just doesn't fit anymore. And to remind ourselves that it doesn't have to be drastic, So
Mm-hmm.
I have had drastic changes and moments of those, but more of them were internal. The drastic
Yeah.
was internal. The external was much more slow and progressed. um, I've had times where, like, I knew when I was in my previous career that I needed a career change, so I actually went back to school to go into this different career path, and I started having lots of stuff coming up for me because I well, and I remember a couple of times being in this spot where I'm like, this is me losing my shit. Like, how bad is this going to be? I mean, I know I can do that quite well. I can crash and burn and be a complete shit show. So I was really in that spot of like, oh my gosh, what is going to happen? And I knew something had to change right away. And I gave myself that reflection time to figure out what was going on, because at first I was thinking, well, this is just my confirmation that I need to leave this career path and go in a different direction, which is true. Um, but it wasn't until a little bit later when that came up again, that feeling again, when I realized, oh, this is everything within me letting me know I'm not, this new career path, this school that I'm going to is not correct for me. And as soon as I acknowledged that, that internal angst went away, the losing my shit went away. And then I was like, okay, but it does still stand that I need to move on. And so I, it's just an interesting transition. And it's interesting how life kind of hides it from us, because
Mm-hmm.
all the things were going on in life, right? That internal chaos could have been from the work I was doing, from having too much on my plate, to having family and chaos with all of that. Like, there was a whole bunch of things it could have been. COVID was going on at that time as well. So it was a lot of that, but it was none of that at the same time. It was really
Mm-hmm.
that my body was sending me signals that do your thing and go your separate way, but don't go this way.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that's an important thing to remember, is to really give yourself permission to create something new.
Yeah. And to also to build that self-awareness, and if you're feeling stuck, or if you're feeling that angst, like, or if you're starting to feel a lot of anxiousness or unfulfilled, or you're
Like you're
feeling
gonna
like
explode.
you're going to explode. Yeah.
I was like, am I gonna do something illegal? Like what exactly? I don't know. I
Yeah.
wasn't really sure. I just knew it was gonna be really bad.
Yeah. And if you're feeling those things, just know that, uh, allow yourself to be that self-aware and understand that that could be something that's telling you that you're outgrown this situation, or that it's time to move on from this situation, whatever it is. If, like you said, with your job, your career, or and that's, I know I have felt that before. I had a job that was like the best job I had ever had. I mean, it was like I made excellent money. I traveled all the time. Um I was doing all the things I loved to do, but it was killing me. And it was, I knew, I didn't know, but I got let go from that job. And when I got let go from that job, I realized that that job was killing me. And that's when I made a lot of different shifts in my life. That was when it was kind of a pivotal point for me. And at that time I wasn't that self-aware, and I wasn't able to really, I knew I was feeling a lot of shit. I knew that there was a lot of turmoil inside. I had gained a ton of weight, and I was just like anxious all the time and stressed, and all the things. My hair was falling out. I had alopecia. I had big old spots on my head where I was losing my hair. And it was a blessing that I got let go. And then I got let go with a good severance package. And that was helped me to, it gave me some time where I was able to I took a whole summer off. And it was a pivotal point in that I started taking care of my health. I started taking care of myself, in a different way. And so, yeah, that's when you know, we I started making those changes. And had I been more aware, I would have been like you and changed my whole career path and done something different, had I known that, because I at that time I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't real self-aware. But it helped me to move into being that more self-aware person to I mean, I moved into like totally taking care of myself, totally taking care of my health, totally doing the things that I liked to do, in my work. And I did go back to work for some oil field companies, which I'm nowadays I would not. I still work for a couple of oil field companies, but I struggle with um a little bit of that still. And I wouldn't go to work full time for an oil field company because I mean just because it's not
Not
in
for your
alignment for
partners.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so with this, like let's just say someone's listening and they're like, okay, I've been picking up, these are some signals that I have had, or they're at that place where they're like, yeah, my life doesn't fit. Now what, right? Because the next steps can be quite scary, and especially if it includes other people, right? Maybe it is, I don't live alone and I'm not just, it's just me. Like everything, the things I do might impact a partner or children or people that I work with or for, or, something along those lines. So, what are your thoughts on that with that transition from, okay, I know something, I know this is the problem and I know this needs to change, and then stepping into that and some of the growing pains that go along with that? What's some of your experience there? I feel like I asked you like 10 questions all at once, but that's how my brain was like putting it in order.
So, in those transitions, so I've had a few times where I have we talked about this earlier, where one big one was it was when I decided to start taking care of my health, and I started running. And I started really, that's when I really started working on the mindset, and the shifting my mind, and um, in a different way than than I did it with all the self-help books and stuff. It was a whole different, it was a total shift. And just even to the point of I was more positive. And I noticed that when I would be in a group, a family, it would be with our family. And I noticed that they would start gossiping about somebody, and I wouldn't partake in that, or I would change the subject because it was just that uncomfortable for me. Or the other big one was I quit drinking. And when I quit drinking, I noticed that uh, they would, at first, they were always like, "Oh, come on, it's fine. You can have a drink. You come and join us." And, and it took them probably 2 years to finally be like, "Oh, Tina doesn't drink. She'll drink her water or whatever." So it takes that it's going to take. So for me, what I've seen is it takes the people around you. You have to be determined, and you have to be um stubborn. For me, I have to be determined and stubborn because those people that were around me, it took them that long. And like even with Joe, you know, when I started running and stuff, he would do little things to kind of sabotage my running. Or, my daughter would do little things to sabotage. If I had a running, I knew I had to run that night, and they would be like, "Let's go eat," or "Let's go do this," or, and it was always that kind of struggle because they wanted me to stay the same. This new Tina was kind of messing with them. They weren't quite sure how this new Tina was going to play out. And so they wanted me to stay the same. They enjoyed Tina the same. And it's the same, with the family. When I would quit doing the partaking of the gossip, and my mind was totally different. And they would be like, I would get little comments here and there or whatever. Or when I quit the drinking, and they were trying to always, "Oh, it's okay. It's okay." You will have those people in your life that will give you pushback. And it's always, it it's not because, I mean, they do love you, they do want you to be but they do have those insecurities too, and they're scared that something it's going to affect them in a certain way or whatever.
And I think
So
some
yeah.
do truly love you so much that they're trying to almost buffer you from
Buffer, yeah.
potentially your own failure, right? Like
Hmm.
what one thing that we forget is oftentimes when we have started something new, they've been on the sidelines watching, right? So
Hmm.
they've probably watched us start the thing that we don't stick with and something that maybe doesn't pan out. And they've been there to kind of hold us and pick up the pieces when we have quote unquote failed. I don't really believe in that, but whatever.
Right.
It's that idea. So here we are feeling heartbroken, feeling down on ourselves for not being able to be successful in this endeavor. And they've been there a lot to pick up the pieces, sometimes, not every person, but quite often. And so when we start this new one, they're like, oh, not again.
Yeah. Yep.
So they're there to be, sometimes it can be just trying to keep us not necessarily down, but keep us so that the
Safe.
the fall and the biff it when we fall
Hmm.
flat on our face, it doesn't hurt quite as badly, or maybe they're trying to prevent us from experiencing that.
Hmm.
Very rarely does it come across that loving, though,
Right.
right? It
Right.
quite often comes across as very negative and attacking, and "you're stupid, why would you do that, nobody succeeds in that." I really felt that when I wrote my book. I had a couple of key people in my life at the time who were like, just really tried to shut that down and be super negative
Mhm.
about it. And so it is sometimes because they love you so much and they're being very kind and caring, but often it's also because they love themselves and they don't want whatever that may come or may come about as a result of your change. Because I mean, we know that ourselves, right? Like sometimes I look back at my past self, who I was a chapter or two ago, and I miss that girl. Sometimes
Mhm.
I'm like, I liked her better than I like who I
Right.
am now.
Right.
So, of course, the people in my life are going to be thinking the same thing in some ways,
Mhm.
where it's like, where did that girl go? I miss that girl. And I'm over here like, yeah, no shit. So do I, like, so it's looking at how can I bring some of those qualities that I'm missing into this present reality that I have. And, um, but that's my work to do. But then it's also understanding that that is very real for that person and knowing that they will oftentimes try to prevent as well.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I started running, my dad was like constantly telling me, "You're going to mess up your knees. Your knees are going to be horrible." And what, and I'm just like, "Dad, I'm fine." And of course, I started running in my mid 40s. So it was like, actually late 40s. And so my dad is just like, "You're just going to hurt yourself." And, and I know it was all about just like what you said, all about trying to protect me from myself, basically. But yeah.
But there's also the group of people that are not there to protect you from yourself.
Mhm.
They're there for selfish reasons. And I think it's important to point that out as well. Sometimes it is just a genuine fear of what will this do to our relationship? So kids, partner, those kind of things. But sometimes it is very much because people love how you show up right now to serve them, right?
Mhm.
Or you being you in this version of life really benefits me. So
Mhm.
therefore, I don't want you to change and I'm going to be really difficult and make your life a living hell or whatever because I don't like what's happening. I'm going to say you're being selfish. I'm going to try to guilt trip you. And here comes in the manipulation from others, right? This
Mhm.
is, and I wrote about this in my book, and we were talking about other books where it's the crab bucket mentality, right? Where alone in a bucket, that crab can climb its way out, can figure it out. But when it's in the bucket with other crabs, as it starts to climb out to get its way out, they start pulling it,
It's
and to
pulling
the
it
point
down.
where they'll kill it, they'll rip it apart,
Mhm.
to keep it stuck in that bucket with them. And we see that with others. We see that with those in our lives. And that is just the time where it's letting us know that really if they're not willing to come with you, that's okay. That is
Mhm.
their story, that's their experience, and it's time for you to catapult yourself out of that damn bucket and move on because there's not anything that ever comes good of that. If they
Mhm.
truly, if they're a little nervous, like what you were talking about with your family, as you're starting to run, you're starting to do those things, and everybody's
Yeah.
like, what's happening? What is going to happen? Like they're a little
Right.
bit nervous about it, versus the ones who are truly, they want to keep you drinking, they want to keep you partying, they want to keep you where they are. And there's a lot of things that goes into that with them. But I think that's important to remember that some genuinely do have your best interest at heart. They're just unsure about how to help you. And then there's others who absolutely don't have your best interests at heart at all. They have their own interests in the scheme of things. And that's not going to be for your greatest and highest good.
Right. Right. And it's a, you know, when we talk about that, you think about the friends who we share certain things with. So like we can go to this friend and we can gossip at this, about these things or whatever. And so if you're looking at those types of friends who are like, we share all these things, and then you start to change and that friend is like, wait, no, I don't want you changing, because what happens? I can't gossip anymore. I don't have my friend here to gossip with. So yeah, remembering that as you're as you're making these changes in your life, or as you're, stepping into this new version of yourself, that is, there's always those things that could happen that, you know, and as we feel like we need to move on, or we feel like we need to move into these new ways of being, it's there can be those different aspects of it. So,
Do you have like recommendations or things that you would say for those who maybe they have the correct people in their life, um, but a nice way to help them through this shift that you're going through or whatever? Like, do you have ideas on some of that or things you've done or experienced or seen?
so for me, I know that um, one thing to remind yourself that when you're going through these shifts and these changes, and you've like what you talked about earlier, is where we've built this life, built these, all of these things around us, this career, even this, the way of being that we are. And all of a sudden we're feeling like we're unfulfilled, and we're stuck, and we don't know why. And we know that we need to make these shifts, and we need to move in a different direction. But just give yourself grace and understand that that's not failure, that you're not failing. You know, you lived that, you did that, and now you're going to move on to something that could even be better. And that's life too, right? We're always shifting. We're always um if we're not shifting a little bit here, we're not growing. And so I'll, remember that we need to, as humans, and if we want to fulfill our purpose and do the things that we want to do in our life, we do need to um, grow. And that's what this is growth, and it's helping us to grow. And so giving yourself grace, um, like I said before, stubborn willfulness, making sure that that is exactly what you want. And if that is exactly what you want, then do it, and don't allow others to sway you, because um as we talked about before, there will be those people that will come at you in different ways, and they will try to sway you in different ways. And just know that the people are um, that have your best interest at heart, they might push back for a little while, but they will um, start to see that this is the best for you, and that it's the best for them. Because a lot of times what happens is when we start making these shifts, we're a different person, and we're showing up differently, and we're feeling differently, and we're able to project that onto our kids and our families. And we're we're doing we're helping them in a different way, in which it makes that, it's kind of like what you said, you show up in a whole different way, and your kids are growing different than they had done before, right? Or you're teaching them different ways. So yeah, just remembering that if this is the path for you, then stick to it and push on. But and don't let others sway you.
And I think it's important to remember that just like what you said, this if this is your path, then remember this is your path. This
Mm-hmm.
isn't his path and her path and their path and everybody's path. Like if you change directions, that is 100% correct for you. Awesome, go for it, do it. But it is not your job to convert others to your way
Right.
of thinking or your new habits and change. And I think that's it's it's a delicate balance, right? Because we're excited about what we're doing and we're seeing these results and we want to share it with the planet. Awesome, go share it with the planet, but it is not to be force fed to your family. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing that I see that causes a lot of damage within relationships, especially. And I've done that before myself, and didn't go well. Versus the way I manage it now, which is more I'm sharing what I'm excited about. I don't need him to subscribe to my beliefs at all. In fact, I don't even care if he does. He can, like, he's very, I mean, I do have some expectations in the way of like, you don't get to be mean to me. You know, you
Hmm.
don't have to subscribe to my belief, and you can think I am batshit crazy because half the time I think I am too, you know? I mean, I go through that as well, but you don't get to be rude. You don't get to be disrespectful and condescending. And I also know that not everyone can be like, I'm very grateful that he is not condescending, right? That those are things he's just like, you do you, believe the way you believe. And I don't pressure him to subscribe to that at all. But I also know that if he was the type of person that was going to put it down and was going to talk negatively about it, and he, like, not only was it not his thing, but it was against his belief, he's not someone that I would share it with, right? Like, I'm
Hmm.
not going to go sharing my, oh my gosh, you will not believe what just happened, if he's going to knock me down about it,
Hmm.
because it truly isn't what he believes fundamentally. So I think it's really important that you pay attention to who you share things with, and to make sure that if they are the right people to share that with, that you're sharing it in a way of just sharing your excitement and what you love, not as you also need to believe this.
Exactly.
And also stay out of the holier than thou nonsense. Like, we hate it, it's
Hmm.
bullshit, we don't like it when it's put on us. So you know, like what you were talking about with eating and having healthier food and doing exercises and
Hmm.
stuff, there's a very different vibe when you're like, no thanks, I don't drink, or no thanks, I'm going running, or no thanks, I don't eat that, versus I don't eat that. You know, I mean, that's a
Exactly.
quick way to fuel that fire against you.
Yep, definitely. And I totally agree with that. Um, and as you were talking, I was thinking about that. And it totally, I lost it. I lost my thought.
I do think though that, like, when we start getting into that situation, we need to start looking at what is our motivation, right? Am I in this motivation to shift because this feels like the correct path for me? Am I sharing this because I'm sharing my excitement? Or am I sharing it because I need to be right, because I need to be seen, because I need to be seen as achieving or worthy? Am I doing this to prove my worth? Like, that's huge. Self awareness is huge in all of this.
Hmm.
And it ties into it, because if I need you to validate me, then I'm coming at you, instead of me sharing this cool thing that just happened, I'm coming at you because I need something from you in return. And
Hmm.
especially that can really get us into shaking grounds in all different areas, but especially this. Um, because
Yeah,
sometimes
definitely.
people can't honor that and can't provide that for us. And again, it goes back to, this is the wisdom within, right? Is validating myself, knowing this is my path, trusting I'm doing this in my way that's correct for me, and in a way that's loving for those that I love as well.
Hmm. Yeah, and it comes down to just like what you were saying about making sure that it's you kind of staying in your own lane there. It's like, this is my path. I know that this is my path, but I'm not going to push it on everybody around me. And I've had those situations before where people are like, oh, yeah, I'm doing this whole new thing. You need to be doing that. And you need to be doing this. And you need to be. And no, that it doesn't work that way. For me, I have found though, is that um, finding the right, like what you said, finding the right people, but um, creating like I create ways of accountability for myself and finding ways to keep myself accountable in, whether it's a close friend, whether it's, your partner. Those people can help you if you're making big changes, if you're making, moving into a whole new way of being or whatever, if you've outgrown your life or you've outgrown your situation or you've outgrown these um things that you're doing, when you're making those changes in your life, finding ways to keep yourself accountable to those changes. And it can be as simple as a gratitude practice. I mean, gratitude practice to me is like one of the biggest shifts you can make in your life. And so when you're seeing that, if you're doing those a gratitude practice, finding ways to maybe share with your partner what you're grateful for, or sharing with your friend what you're grateful for, or different things like that to kind of help you as you're moving in this kind of has that those things have helped me in the past, is just finding different ways to, and not projecting it onto them, and not saying that you need to be doing this, but sharing what I'm doing and how I'm feeling, or how, like with Joe right now, like right now I'm going through this another shift in my life, and really working on mindset again. And so Joe gets kind of a little bit he doesn't like change. So I have to watch how I share things with him, right? So when I share things with him, it's more along the lines of, I read this in this book, and this is what I'm kind of starting to work on, or I'm going for my walk this morning and we'll see you, and different things like that. And so just kind of being careful, but also kind of trying to have those people help, you know, be on your side somehow, and it's in doing those little, just little practices, like sharing a little bit about, what you're doing or whatever. And I don't know, like kind of like what you said, though, if it is the person that is going to put you down all the time, then find somebody else who
Mhm.
is going to help to lift you up. Because sometimes we can't do these things on our own.
Mhm.
Sometimes these shifts are that big to where we do need that extra support and that help along the way. Um, and I don't know, I'm trying to think of how, like, I know with me, it's not like I just moved out of my house because I had this big shift. It was more of an internal shift, and it was more of how I feel and how I'm acting towards, and, I'm acting towards my family in a different way. And so I'm trying to make these big changes, but I needed to find somebody who maybe was outside of my family that didn't, that kind of helped me to be accountable to myself, and to remind me that these shifts are okay, because sometimes we get in these dynamics in our families and our home or whatever, and we don't have that support. And
Mhm.
I'm trying to find the words, but for me it's like, even listening to books or things like that is going to help you. But if you need somebody to talk to, like I have you, or I have, you know, other people that I can go to, that I can talk about with that, where sometimes I can't talk to Joe about my, these things that I'm changing in my life. Does that make sense? I
It
know I'm kind
does.
of rambling. I feel like I'm rambling on, but I'm like trying to.
Yes, yes. And I think that it all comes back to emotional intelligence, and we want to believe that we are emotionally intelligent people. Okay, awesome. Apply that, right? Look at this person that you're talking to. Is this a fundamental core belief that you are changing, that is, like, I work a lot with people who have left religion, whatever religion it is, and there's they're wanting to share that with their partner or with the family who still hold that fundamental belief. And I don't necessarily think that that's incorrect to share that. Like, that depends on the person and the dynamic and everything. But you're rocking their world, and that's okay. But there is a respect and a gentleness that can be done with that. work through your own emotional intelligence or work with Tina or I, and we can help you do that.
Right.
But it's like that is a very key component and it doesn't necessarily have to be religion. That one's just big and it's a little more understandable, right? Because, when I left my religion, I did a lot of that internally before I ever said anything to anyone else. And when I did, I wasn't trying to prove it wrong, just like we don't want ours proven wrong. It's going the same way. So it's very,
Right.
very careful with how you handle things that are big fundamental changes.
Hmm.
It's also paying attention to the words that you use. I will always say, probably till the day that I die, that the words we speak are spells. We are casting spells. So if I
Hmm.
sit down with my partner one day and, like I'm also going through some mindset work and I'm in this spot where I'm like, shit's got to change and it's got to change now.
Hmm.
But it has nothing to do with him. This is
Yeah.
stuff I need to do with me. But if I sat down and I'm like, I am so freaking unhappy with my life and shit has to change, his automatic, because he's human, I'd do the same thing, is, oh my gosh, he's leaving or she's leaving
Yeah.
or something is bad. This is death and destruction. Where for me, it is, I have got to get myself disciplined. I have got, like, it has
Hmm.
nothing to do with the relationship. So, handling that conversation and being very aware of the spells you're casting with your words
Hmm.
is really important, to like bring them along the ride and being able to say, I'm I'm really struggling in these areas, so they know that
Hmm.
it's these areas, not them. And then it's able, and then you're able to be like, shit's got to change and I have to make some
Hmm.
shifts in these areas because I can see how it's impacting other areas in my life when it's really this. Chances are they can see how everything's, but they don't know what's going on inside your head.
Right.
So for
Right.
me, like sitting down with it enough to be self aware so that you can have that conversation in an intelligent, respectful way
Hmm.
is so much more important than I just have this need, I got to dump it on you. And so here you go. And however you receive it is your problem, not mine. Like,
Right.
helpful.
Right. And if you have somebody like I do who wants to fix everything, you say, I don't need you to fix this. I just want you to hear. This is what's going on. Don't try to fix. Don't try to tell me what I need to do. This is what, so that's that communication point part too. We have to be really, really specific and really clear on how it's impacting us and then how it's impacting them too. So,
Mhm. And I think at the end of the day, it goes back to if this is correct for you, trust that. Don't allow yourself to be watered down and swayed away from that direction, that path. But there's a loving way to move forward so
mhm,
that the incorrect relationships have less sway over you, and then the correct relationships are actually bolstered and made stronger as you transition through this change and shift that you have. I very
right.
much feel that that's a possibility. I've seen
Yeah,
it in my own life. I know it's a possibility. I've seen it with my clients. So, um, doesn't mean it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows.
exactly.
Better point that
Exactly.
out there too. And to be completely honest, in past shifts that I've had, it has ended in ending of relationships.
Mhm.
I also have not spoken with my mom in
Me
years.
too.
Um,
Yeah.
Divorce, breakups, career changes, um, all of which I can see in my life how those have supported me, but they were absolute hell to go through in the time of it,
Hmm.
So keep that in mind that if we go into this anticipating that, this life that I built doesn't fit anymore, so I'm moving into this new direction and it's all just going to go seamless and smooth. Okay, I hope that for you. I wish that for you, but don't
Hmm.
expect that. And,
Right.
I'm kind of like,
Right.
if it's a complete overhaul, it's going to be a complete overhaul. It's going to
Right.
come with some challenges.
And don't allow yourself to try the quick fix thing either. If if these things aren't fitting, this life you have doesn't fit, these um you're you're feeling, anxious about it, don't jump on, don't start doing the numbing yourself. Don't go buy you a new car. Don't go, get you the go buy a boat or
Start
go,
drinking every night to feel
start,
better.
yeah,
Can't figure
yeah,
it
don't,
out.
yeah, don't. And I know we tend to do a lot of that and the numbing and the things like that when we have these things, these big things that are going on in our lives, but um, it doesn't do us any good. And when we can start with that self awareness, and I think that's the biggest point that we need to make in this video is self, becoming self aware and understanding what um, how you're feeling and understanding what needs to shift, what needs exactly what needs to move. It's not these abstract things. It's what do I need to do to move away from these feelings that I'm having? And that doesn't mean numbing and buying the things and going on a shopping spree and whatever. It means what do I need to do within myself to help me move into this different direction, because that self-awareness is it's going to be you know the biggest catalyst to this whole shift thing.
Hmm. I'm so glad you added that. Thank you so much because that is huge, right? We do. Sometimes the thing that we fear the most is going within.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to know what's under there. I don't want to know why I'm feeling this way because it's scary. Well, that's shadow work.
Mm-hmm.
It's illuminating, it's shining that light on what it is that you're wanting to avoid. And that is the key, is to allow ourselves to sit with it and just be comfortable with that uncomfort. You don't even have to try to figure it out. Just recognize, okay, I got to this level and I'm feeling super uncomfortable. I'm going to sit with this for a minute and allow that feeling to subside and then go a little deeper. And just
Mm-hmm.
even if that's as far as you go for now, like that's beautiful because it is it is self-awareness, but it's deeper than that. It's self-knowing, it's
Mm-hmm.
understanding, it's having compassion. It's, oh, I get it now, I see. I mean, there's so much beauty in that work. So
Right.
I'm so grateful that you brought that up. Shadow work's my favorite topic,
Yeah,
or one of them.
I know. Can you believe I brought that up?
I know. I was like, how did I miss that? It's a very beautiful process, and really all it is bringing the subconscious to light, right?
Mm-hmm.
Making it conscious. We're acting because that is that little 7-year-old self within us that's driving our car. We'd never give our 7-year-old a keys to the car to drive on the freeway, right? Like
Right.
that's, well, hopefully none of us would. If so, then
Right.
you need to rethink some things. Um, but it is recognizing that that's what we do in life, and that is where that awareness comes in. So
Mm-hmm.
love that.
Yeah. That self-awareness is like the biggest. I I feel like one of the biggest things, especially when we're feeling these, when we're feeling like our life's unfulfilled, or we're feeling like um we're lost, or we've outgrown this thing that we're doing, or this doesn't feel in alignment anymore. Then when we have that self-awareness, then it helps us to move through it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Is there anything else that you feel we need to add?
um no, I think I'm good.
I feel complete with it too.
Yeah.
So before we totally end, I would like to know, do you have ways people can work with you if they would like to work through some of this or something different?
Actually, right now, what I have is a mastermind coming up, and so and that's for healers and wellness practitioners to go in. We'll be working on business stuff. So
I'm excited for that.
so I have that, and then we have a Reiki class too,
Yes.
so that we offer.
Yes. So we'll put the details of that um, down below. And it's if you're catching this after that class, we'll have a wait list down there for you. So you can,
Hmm.
if you're interested in learning Reiki with us, we do teach Reiki 1 and 2 as well as a master class. So you can do all
Hmm.
those different levels with us. So check that out and jump on the wait list if that's something that you want, if it's not currently open.
Right.
Do you have anything else?
No, not right now.
Not right now.
Coaching. I do coaching. So if you want to do some coaching with me, I do have that. So,
Yes. We both do coaching. I've got a coaching program for really for that woman who a lot of what we've talked about today, where you're kind of recognizing that you've been giving everything to everyone else at the expense of
hmm.
yourself. And you're really ready to feel confident about your decisions, trust your intuition, finally connect to that purpose and meaning of life. Then I also have a program that's called Unbound, and it's really about breaking those chains that keep you stuck and hold you down and allowing yourself to step into that future. So with that, that's my private coaching program. I'll have a link for that down below as well if you want to learn more about that. And it's fun. It's very unique to each person. I bring in human design and the gene keys as well as my intuition and guidance that I have and lots of tools. So definitely a
Yeah.
fun program. Those are the things I have going on right now is our Reiki class and then my Unbound program.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. All right. Do us a favor, please like, comment, share, really comment. We want to be able to interact with you in the comments. That's so much fun
Hmm.
for us. And then share this with others who you feel could use this topic. Maybe you've got a friend who you know is struggling with this. Send this their way and help us get the word out.
Yeah. And on every Monday morning, we do a video on Facebook, Facebook Live, where we do more, it's more about card pulls and talking about gratitude and intention, but we would love to answer any questions too if you have anything. So,
Yeah. And really just connect with us. It's fun. That's what we
hmm.
love. We love being able to do these videos and share these with you, but we miss the personal connection of
Hmm.
being able to communicate with others and have conversations. So I'll even have a link down below of where you can find us on the lives on Mondays as well.
Sweet.
Awesome.
All
Okay.
right.
Until next time, we'll see you soon.
Yeah. Talk to you later.